Hi, everybody. My name is Grace Bubeck, and I welcome you to this conversation with Byron Katie, which is part of a series of live online conversations on the theme of living from love. And I'm really thrilled to have Katie with us today. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Grace.
And it's just so wonderful for this to actually happen. I just can't quite believe it yet. So let me take a deep breath. And I don't think that you need introducing, Katie. Everybody knows you. You're so kind of well known all over the world. And your work has been, I'll just start off with this, has been really quite an eye-opener for me personally. And I remember the friend who introduced me to you, his name is Claude, and he brought a cassette tape. This was in the early 2000s. He brought a cassette tape and he said, listen to this. And, you might find that interesting. And at the time, I was still very much in the therapeutic mode, in the mode of making things right for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I listened to this and I was like so taken aback.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that, this wasn't about getting things right for oneself. It was actually about finding the rightness of things just as they are.
Yes. Yeah.
Something like this. And, but I got it, and I started using the work, and it was just actually quite wonderful because I pretty much resisted everything. So, it started undoing.
Glad you found that that single polarity of mind where it can soar and be free and connected to everyone and everything.
Yes. And, I'm very grateful. And actually, I did also a worksheet with you in Montreal. I don't know whether you remember. That was maybe 2 or 3 years later. And it was very eye-opening. And so
it's a beautiful,
so here we are.
It's a beautiful thing to understand how to question one's judgments, how to question one's well, let's just say judgments, and to witness as well that identity that you pointed to earlier, where you're trying to make your life better, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. But to witness that identity just fall away and the ease we're left with, and how everything starts adding up, like 2 and 2 make 4, in the universe, and it's everything works. It works, and we're just catching up to that.
Yes.
The synchronicity and the beauty of perfection and the grace of being a part of that and witnessing that and being fed out of that, and it's everything. Flawless, beautiful.
Yes. And, maybe we can just off with that question around that theme. I'm a therapist myself, and so I'm kind of on that fine line of therapy, and also introducing people to the idea that who they think they are is not necessarily who they really are. Mm-hmm. And that their strategies of coping with life and making life better for themselves or good for themselves is not necessarily what is well, that's ultimately
Well, it's not
what is
necessarily,
suffering.
it's like, yes, it is not necessarily necessary that we make things right for ourselves. It's what is beautiful is to wake up to everything necessary already is, and our war with that reality keeps us from the awareness of recognizing the beauty of all, and the gift of all, and until we love what is, there's a misunderstanding that's going on, and that is my misunderstanding. And through inquiry, I was given the gift to straighten it all out, as you were given the gift to straighten it all out, as each of us are. My job is to make sure that as many people as possible understand that these 4 questions exist. But whether they use them or not is not my job. My job is just to make sure, and thank you for this interview, Grace. It gives me the opportunity to, with you, introduce these 4 questions and turnarounds to people. And then they use them or they don't. And the work works if our minds are open to it. It works for everyone. But we don't all have open minds yet. But in my case, suffering, I did really, I did I did really well at suffering. And it pushed me to the point where I think I hit a wall and saw I saw I received a huge dose of something else, the extreme opposite of suffering, and I saw how suffering was created, and we can all see that through the practice of sitting in inquiry.
Yes, and Katie, for the particular audience of people that watch this, I speak to non-dual spiritual teachers. So you're actually slightly unusual in terms of who I speak to, because, that there is a certain non-dual jargon. And there's also, at least initially, a misunderstanding of what the teachings are, because people hear about awakening, about enlightenment, and so they think that they just need to wake up, they just need to become enlightened, and then they'll be okay. So there's there's a timeline, and somehow that timeline actually introduces a very specific suffering for these people, because now they have to suffer about not being awake yet. Yeah. And it gets quite deep. And I just wanted to, can I read a quote from your book, 1,000 Names for Joy?
Yes.
Which speaks to that topic. So you say, people think that they need to get enlightened in order to be free. And nobody knows what enlightenment is. Yes, it's in the sacred texts, and yes, this guru or that lama says that he has attained it. But that's just a concept. It's the story of a past. The truth is that there's no such thing as enlightenment. No one is permanently enlightened. That would be the story of a future. There's only enlightenment in the moment. Do you believe a stressful thought? Then you're confused. Do you realize that the thought isn't true? Enlightened to it. It's as simple as that. And then the next thought comes, and maybe you're enlightened to it as well, and maybe not. And I thought that sums up really well what it is that you're offered. It is that people take is offered, understand is offered by non-dual teachings. And you just boil it down to this one thought that is stressful or not stressful. And either we see that or we don't. It becomes very practical that way.
You know, to people, you know, I hear them say, Katie is enlightened. And for me, you know, it's how would I know? Enlightenment is far beyond that. So I remain open to enlightened, not. Enlightened, not. And for me, non-duality is just to understand our true nature. It's an understanding. So when we are, let's say we're standing in front of the mirror, we're brushing our teeth, or we're having breakfast, or, you know, any of those apparently mundane things, if we don't love it, we're not coming out of right mind. So once we understand, like if I'm brushing my teeth, when my brush is going up, but I can only know that if in my mind's eye I experience it as going down. So we have this and that, up and down, left and right, is, isn't. That's duality. So just to see it with no reference the way it is not really possible. You still believe there's an up. So that's not it either. It's just, you know, it gets down to just noticing. And in my head, it's like not true, but not as a denial, as a noticing. When it's up, it's down. When it's down, it's up. Just noticing and delighting in the play of mind. Because neither one can exist. If my brush is here and I'm imagining here, and then it's here and I'm imagining here, we don't even know what's going on except in those subtleties, that very subtle, where we're so aware of mind and that it just becomes this hilarious play of and you know, this laughter that it brings of the noticing, like nothing, everything, nothing. And, you know, when you say, you know, you work with people in non-duality, this would definitely sound like an odd conversation to someone that isn't in that practice. But it's if I see either one as happening, which if you see something that's not happening, like the brush is up and you're seeing it here, and you're witnessing what isn't, because you know isn't what isn't, and you're seeing that, then you're still in duality. There's a witnessing that happens, an awakeness that happens that is beyond everything. And then there seems to be a humor that comes out of it. It's the innocent. And who wouldn't laugh at a baby that is just drooling and happy and spitting? And who wouldn't just absolutely love the innocence of that? And a mind that would see that and realize not is just that spitting, beautiful baby, bodiless mind, just awake to itself and always finding a way back into the impossible. You know, the identity. Mind cannot be what it is not, and so can never be object. And once that's understood, even object is not object. But oh, what a beautiful play. The connected, the non-separate, non-dual. But to live, to witness out of that true nature is love itself. It's that understanding. Everything's acceptable in it.
Yes.
Everything.
Yes.
Everything. Mind, not.
I love, somehow you find such simple ways of speaking that. And at the same time, they're so evocative, And in preparing for this meeting, for this con, I actually found it quite difficult to really prepare, because all I wanted to do is just in this beauty with you, without even needing to say anything. But that's not very entertaining for people who watch. So I really, I always wonder, that's always one of my questions, is how can people be invited into this? And I know your way is through the stressful thoughts and questioning.
I was going to say, I would start from wherever I am, and that always, where else to start? So if I am not at home in my world, or let's simplify, if I'm stressed out, I am believing a judgment, and I can identify that judgment and question it. And the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet is always free on thework.com. The directions are there. They're always free on thework.com. It's a way of meditating on what we believe to be true. And it's thorough if one's mind is open to it. And especially meditators find themselves deeply at home as they sit in these questions. So to identify the judgment, and we have many in one story that are running, and yet not that many. We come to see that there are not that many, that they're all recycled, and we use them over and over, and then we wondered why we're bored. But there really aren't that many when it comes to war. War with the world is really war with the self. And so to identify the judgment, and then just to meditate on those judgments through the invitation of the questions. For example, there's something the matter with me, and the first question is it true? So I would meditate on that, and I don't have to answer it. It's not necessary. If I ask the question and my mind is open to it, it shows me, it gives me the answers through images and concepts. And then I move to, can I absolutely know that it's true, that there's something wrong with me? And then I just wait, and I'm shown through images of past and future. And then there's a resolution that comes as we sit in that question. And then the third question, how do I react? What happens when I believe the thought? And I just wait and let the movie of past and future show me clearly how I react when I believe the thought in time. And the stress that comes with that, and the separation that comes in that, the war that comes in that, the addictions that come out of that, the life that comes out of that. And then who would I be without the thought, without that judgment? And then I drop into that question. I meditate on that. And I witness the same thing, only without the judgment. And it shows me who and what I am without that judgment in that same situation that I've anchored in, that time and place as I sit in this work. And then I turn it around. There's something wrong with me. And opposite is there's something right with me. So then I meditate on that. I just witness and wait to be shown what is right with me. Now, this takes a very open mind. If I'm convinced there's something wrong with me, then I'm not so open to what is right with me. And so I'm prepared for those turnarounds through those 4 questions. Through meditating on those. So there's something right with me. And then they can just begin to flood us and shift us and change us. And it doesn't, our identities shift in that. Who and what we believe ourselves to be shift in that. And it can be any concept, any judgment. But again, it was shown to me so clearly in that moment on the floor that's where the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet came from as well, just like the 4 questions and turnaround. So everyone gets to sit with the greatest teacher they'll ever meet, the greatest teacher they'll ever encounter, and that is themselves, the self. And
Yes.
that's a beautiful thing.
So, Katie, can I ask you a question? Actually, I have 2 questions about that. One is, in my experience, both my own and that of clients and friends also, it seems that the worst and the deepest judgments are always about ourselves. And somehow we seem to get to those last. And I was wondering what your experience was with working with people.
Well, to just go ahead and you're very good. The ego is very closely invested there. It's very difficult, but it certainly is a very powerful thing to do. The reason I invite people not to judge themselves at first is simply because the ego is so closely invested. But if I judge someone else, then it's a generation away, apparently. And so I judge that person. Then when the worksheet is filled in with my judgments about that person, then I look at that worksheet, and whose thoughts are those? Well, those are mine. I took them out of my head and I put them on the worksheet. So I am working with myself at all times. Those are my thoughts. I'm not working on another person. Yes. I'm working on myself. So yes. It's kind of, when I invite people to judge someone else as someone just new to the work, really I've said yes, not no.
So that brings me to the second question, which is, I noticed on your website that you can coming up which is on the question, who am I? And you call it a mini no-body experience. And I thought that was interesting because the question, who am I, doesn't usually show up in the work, because it's usually like, it's a judgment, so it's something more specific. And the question, who am I, really kind of cuts right to the heart of, you might say the central confusion, which is who we take ourselves to be.
Yes.
And I was wondering how you come to introduce that question.
Well,
it's a question that in non-dual teachings has a huge role, and I hadn't from you, so I was just curious.
Well, it's the answer that it's an answer people come to automatically as they question what they believe. It's being answered at all time. And we just experience watching this who am I fall away, and left with this lighter, kinder, more aware, compassionate I am. And in the most dense way, if I take a minute to respond to that, what else is there? I want a drink of water. I want to go here. I don't want to go there. I want this. I don't want. I should. I shouldn't. You should. You should. I am tired. I am hungry. I am too full. I am thirsty. I am. So it shows up everywhere. And in inquiry, we can see not that, not that, not that, not that. And it just continues to fall. So without pointing to it, through inquiry, it's an obvious thing happening every time we're meditating on those 4 questions and turnarounds. So this no body event I do is it takes it's very popular. I'll say that. It's very popular, but it's extremely radical. And so this I don't offer, I offer maybe once a year, and maybe, and it's so popular that I can do a 2-day. And this is the first one, so it's like a mini no body, and it is like the no body. It's the answer to who am I, and so we will, through inquiry. It's like cutting to the chase, but it's interesting to pull people that I is just pulled away from them before they have practice and inquiry, so they're not frightened into identification when they lose identification. You understand? It's like you have that reference of no identification, and people frighten themselves back into identification. And
that's a beautiful way of putting it.
And so when they start to experience that again, they frighten themselves back again. So they're stuck in the who am I? And it stops. The fear. But who am I, with an open mind, which inquiry brings us to, is the gentle falling away of identity. And it never ends. Infinite mind it does not need identification. In hindsight, we could say to love, to
Yes.
to to love.
Yeah, identification stands in the way of love, doesn't it?
Well,
I mean, what have you?
it's a word for our true nature, and nothing is necessary
Mm,
outside of that. No
yes.
identification necessary.
Hmm. Yeah.
And love is still identification. So I hesitate at even saying it. But if there is a final word, I I often use I'll often say, love is the power. That's it.
Mm,
That's it. So trust
mm,
that. You don't need I if you just trust that. It is just the falling into the abyss and just complete safety and being shown, being, well, not a lot of words.
yes. Yes.
And
I,
all in
I,
hindsight, so no identification.
mm, mm, mm.
The dream.
Thank you so much.
Hmm.
It's beautiful, because there's an understanding that somehow just also, gets transmitted despite the words being still words. And you speak that beautifully. And Katie, I'm I'm very aware that you wanted to do also a worksheet with somebody.
Well, actually, I thought that was your request.
Oh, that's interesting. That's what Lisa wrote back to me. So, what I suggest is I don't know whether anybody on the Hangout wants to do a worksheet.
So
Uh,
I'm certainly willing. I mean, I ultimately that's where the power is, the
yes,
answer to the question
yes.
until there are no more questions.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Um,
Nothing to question.
yes, yes. So, of you who are on the Hangout, if you'd like to do a worksheet with Katie, please unmute and bring your video on so that you can do so. Okay. Nobody seems to. I'm just looking at the YouTube thread, and that doesn't seem to be a question. So, well, let me.
And people can always see the work on YouTube.
Yes,
Mhm.
there's a lot. And actually, there's a very beautiful example that on your blog, an interview with what's her name, JCU, and you do the work with her on, as part of the interview, which I thought
That's
was
so,
very courageous.
yes. Oh my goodness, yes. Yeah, so people can enjoy that. And
Yes,
and
yes.
and I see Stan has just put up the Who Am I dates are April 23rd and 24th, so that's coming up soon. And
Mm-hmm.
it's limited because we're having it here at the Center for the Work.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so if anybody's interested, do things live with Byron Katie, even in person. But so let me ask a question. Awaiting somebody to come in. So this is definitely your time to come onto the Hangout, unmute yourself, put your video up, do a worksheet if you're if you're courageous enough. But until somebody comes up, I have another question for you. Somebody has a question on the YouTube thread, but she can't interact with you live, Katie. She says, I have a question. Someone lied to me. How would I do the work on that?
Well, I would get in touch with the lie itself and the person who lied. Or if someone told me the person lied, I would get in touch with the person that lied, the lie, and the person that told me they lied. And I'd have all of that in my mind's eye. And I would find a comfortable place to sit. And I would close my eyes. And I would anchor in those images of that situation where that person lied to me. And then I would use the first question. I'll say she lied to me. And those of you that maybe it's a he, put that there. But he lied to me, or she lied to me in this case. Is it true? And then I would meditate on that by just witnessing what arises as authentically as I believe it to be. And then look to see, am I sure? And then the second question, can I absolutely know that it's true that she lied about me? She lied to me. And then witness what arises there. And then notice in that third question, how do I react? What happens when I believe that thought? And I'll say it the other way. How do you react? What happens when you believe the thought, that person, that she lied to you? And then experience the emotions that come up. Experience how your mind attacks that person. Experience maybe a depression that happens. Experience maybe if maybe you found yourself going to the refrigerator to eat something. Notice how you react. Maybe you weren't even hungry, but there you go. Notice how you react when you believe the thought. And then just sitting there with your eyes closed, meditating on what happened, how you reacted when you believed the thought in that situation of the past that you're anchored in. And then that fourth question, who would you be without the thought, she lied to me, in that same situation, that same place, listening to that person, present in that situation? What do you see without the thought, she lied to me? So it's an opportunity to listen to the words, to listen to the apparent lie. Maybe she didn't lie about me. Maybe I really said it, or maybe I really did it. But just to be open for whatever we see in there. And then we turn it around. She lied to me. She told the truth about me. So now in that situation, stay tight in that situation. So in that moment in time, that situation, where is it that she told the truth about me? And you can look at that very lie and see, maybe, oh my gosh, she was correct. Or she wasn't correct. Or where did she tell the truth about me in that space and time? Maybe, yes, she lied, but then she told, there was something else in there where she told the truth. But I need to listen. I need to be there now. I need to get free from that to be here now, connected, not separate from her or myself. And then turned around, she lied to me. Another turned around, I lied to me.
Yes.
And to be open, where did I lie to me about the situation? And just watch what comes to you. And watch that I know mind just begin to disintegrate in all of this. It's a falling away of identification. It's like, she lied, I know. I told the truth, I know. Well, what do we know when we get as close as I'm inviting people to be with themselves in their own private world where we're safe, other than the only thing not safe is that identity we're holding up. But that's nothing to fear. That opens. We're really, again, Grace, going to the answer of who am I? I am the one that knows she lied to me. But when I question that in this way, and if I no longer believe that, who am I? And so we live as the answer to the question. And it gives us the next thing to question, the next thing to question. So this is a very deep meditation where we're focusing on, rather than on a sound or on a stable image, we're focusing on a situation in time, and we're questioning what we believe about that situation. And the next time we see that person, we're completely connected, as opposed to having that story put on them. It's like we cannot see them. We only see what we believe about them, and we consider that to be this human being. But that is a self-image. It's a facade, and it's coming out of a delusional mindset. So the work wakes us up.
And Katie, what I really like about how you describe
a delusional mindset.
Role, you have to close the YouTube video. Sorry, just commenting on something. Wanting to ask a question. What I love about the way that you talk about how to do the work, you actually invite people into what you might call a clear seeing, a seeing that's not personal, a seeing that's not, and somehow in that seeing, that
we wake up.
The truth reveals itself, and that clear seeing is who we are ultimately.
Yes.
It's not what we identify with, but that which sees. That which sees that.
Yes.
And so what I love about the work is that it's a very specific way of coming to that seeing.
Yes.
It's waking up in a way that is very concrete and very specific.
Yes.
It's about this thought, this belief.
And people who begin to do this work as their practice, sit in it, for example, every morning, maybe with just one concept from the Judge Your Neighbor worksheet. But to sit in a concept, people who develop this way of seeing in meditation begin to see the world in real time this way.
Yes.
So it goes from the inner to the apparent outer until you don't know the difference. And we understand what's here is not real, so what we're seeing there is not real. And so that begins to match this. And that is not personal. And that is beyond non-duality.
So let me ask Katie. Let me ask Roel whether he wants to actually ask you a question or do a worksheet. Can you get back to us on that?
Well, we're almost out of time.
Yes.
But let's see if he has a question.
Okay. Go ahead, Roel.
Hello, Grace. Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you.
I see something beautiful.
Hello, Kate. Thank you for sharing. Most inspiring. Since we don't have a lot of time, I will ask a specific question. I find it difficult to do the work on illness.
For example, what illness?
Well, I myself, I'm confronted with illness, chronic illness.
And what do they call that illness? Cancer or
No, they call it,
allergy?
well, it's basically a complex condition, but part of it is sugar problems. So let's say diabetes.
Okay. So you have diabetes. Is it true? Can you absolutely know that it's true you have diabetes?
Yes, yes.
And how do you react? What happens when you believe that thought? Look
Well,
at your life. Look at your life. Meditate on your life when you believe the thought, I have diabetes. And your mind begins to go to past and future. That's all that's there. Past, future. I have diabetes. How do I react when I believe the thought? I see me eating sugar. I see me wanting to eat sugar. And I see other people able to eat sugar. I see I'm not able to eat sugar. And I see my doctor telling me I have diabetes. And I see the doctor reading the numbers from his chart, and I see in the future it's never going to change, and I see it getting worse, and I see my arm getting infected now, and I see gangrene setting. I see they have to amputate. I see that I have to be careful the rest of my life. Oh, I see I'm so depressed, and this isn't fair comes to mind, and I'm sitting in how I react when I believe that thought. It is everything from just minor discomfort to major depression, fear, worry. I'm witnessing with my eyes closed. I see it. And eventually, with your eyes open, you'll be able to see this in real time and just smile at the movie. Those images of past and future are how we react when we believe the thought. And all emotions, sweetheart, Raw, they come out of witnessing that movie. And as you witness that movie, imagine the sugar, what that does to your blood sugar. They say people with diabetes, should not worry. So, and that's so involved in it. And you begin to see things like this, witness things like this, as you just sit meditating on that third question. So, who would you be without the thought, I have diabetes, just now sitting here with me? Who are you? It's like, who am I without the thought sitting here as I believe me to be? To me, you're a man wearing glasses. You're with a friend. You appear to be.
I find it difficult because, I mean, it's not only a movie, there are also a lot of physical symptoms and not only projecting toward the future. So if you ask now, who am I sitting here with you?
Mm-hmm.
I can also feel...
without the thought, I have diabetes.
Okay.
The fourth question, who would you be without the thought, I have diabetes? Because that's the judgment we're working with. See, this is really scary. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, the ego would say, without the thought, I'm going to eat sugar, all these terrible things I'm worried about are going to happen. Now, those belong over here. Those thoughts belong over here on the side. Like, I can question those judgments later. Right now, just right now, who would I be right now without the thought? And all those other thoughts, just put aside. Who would you be without the thought, I have diabetes right here, right now?
I cannot say. Who am I?
Yeah. Well, you're the man smiling. You're the man talking to his friend. You're the man wearing glasses. I mean, just come to first generation presence. The man sitting in the kitchen, safe in this moment, just now, not tomorrow, not yesterday, but just right now.
But then a thought comes, what if conditions do get worse?
So you put that down on a piece of paper. This condition is going to get worse. My diabetes is going to get worse. So your diabetes is going to get worse. Is it true? Can you really know that it's true your diabetes is going to get worse?
No, of course not. But I mean, generally.
Okay, so I love we're having this time together because it shows it's like you're going into a discussion. So inquiry stops working the moment you stop answering the question. So the answer to the first two questions, there are only four. The answer to the first two questions is either yes or no. So we're going to meditate on that until one just clearly is shown to you. And it may take several days just to sit in that question. My diabetes is going to get worse. Can I really know that it's true it's going to get worse? And notice how you react when you believe the thought. You see images of you in the future, you see it getting worse and worse. And then notice what happens to your blood sugar when that happens, when you're witnessing that movie. And just notice the stress that happens when you believe the thought when you're watching that movie of it getting worse. And then who would you be without the thought it's going to get worse? Present, in much better condition than what you were imagining for the future, and grateful. You know, that future, it's if you want a little fear and terror, get a future.
Well,
if you want a little depression, get a past. So my diabetes is going to get worse. Turned around, my diabetes is not going to get worse. Okay, could be as true. Don't know. What I have learned is it's not worse than I thought it's going to get now. So this moment is a state of grace. I've got all my limbs. They're not amputating. I'm smiling. Where do you make the best choices? When you're stressed out or when your mind is clear?
Obviously, when the mind is clear.
Okay, so that's all we're talking about.
Okay, yes. If we want to block all other questions, that's indeed what we are talking about.
I'm just really talking, sweetheart, about the end of suffering, taking care of the suffering we can do something about. You know, the doctor told me I had cancer, and he was very concerned. He had just received the test, and he called me, and he was very upset. He said, I want you to come to my office now. Get here as quickly as possible. And my thoughts were this: I better get to his office immediately. This man has a problem. He was very upset. So I went to his office, and he had all kinds of radiology appointments lined up for me, and for several weeks, as I recall, and I said, couldn't we take care of this with surgery? I've got this schedule. and he said, no, you can't do that because the surgery would leave you disfigured. It was on my face. It was my nose, actually. And he says it will leave you disfigured. You don't know how much of your nose are going to have to take. And please don't do that. It would take many surgeries to get it back again, if they could get it back again. And if you were my sister, I just would not allow it. And I thought, well, now this is not the doctor for me. He's full of fear. So then my husband began making phone calls, and he found a doctor he wanted me to talk to. And this doctor loves his work. He says, it's not all those surgeries. I can go in there and do that, and we'll do it at the same time. I'll remove the cancer, and if it can all be done, I'll do it, and I'll do the reconstruction in the same surgery. And he was so excited, and I thought, that's the guy for me, because all of his qualifications were there as well as his attitude and his experience, everything. So I went to see him, and the surgery, I think I said 7 and Stephen said 9 hours. It was 9 hours, but I can tell you, I'm wearing, it's like he removed the cancer, he took what he needed from my shoulder and put it on my nose. So I'm wearing my shoulder on my nose, and I just go on. I took my granddaughter to Disneyland the next day because I promised her for her birthday. And I've got this huge thing on my nose and got a lot of attention and met a lot of people. And I imagined myself with this clown nose, those red clown noses before the surgery. The worst that could happen is I would amuse a lot of people. I had nothing to lose. Now, what comes out of this, it's just like simple inquiry. Simple inquiry. We come to see that without a doubt, the universe is friendly. It's a match to our true nature. And I love that I love that you find peace, and that you find this diabetes the greatest gift of your life, because if you can make peace with this, you can make peace with anyone and anything in your life. And I love you also know that the work is free at thework.com, and it's all there. And I love that you take time out in your life just to take care of what you can take care of. And everyone on my mother's side of the family has diabetes, and I'm the only one that didn't develop it. So that's a lot of people, and it's not that I won't develop diabetes, but the things I don't have in common with, the thing I don't have in common with them is I don't carry stress in my life. And I welcome it completely, but I haven't worked yet. So I love that you would question your judgment, sweetheart, and find peace, because only you can give you that. Okay. But it's certainly a lot of fun for me to hang out with you for a while, even though I've done most of the talking.
Okay. Thank you very much for inquiring.
You're welcome, Rob.
And I'm very aware that it's past your time. As I said on the website, we only have an hour today. Byron Katie is very much in demand. And I'm also aware that there's a lot of questions on the YouTube thread that I wasn't able to put to you by people wanting to inquire. So, you can watch the videos on Katie's website, thework.com. They're very good, and they explain really how to do the work, and nothing beats actually doing it.
And absolutely. The ego wants to imagine what the work is, but the work is meditation, and it's the invitation to sit in a moment in time and question from this safe place right here, right now, what we believed in that situation that we missed.
Yes.
And we just watch our ego scream to get still again and repeat the question and get still and begin again.
Yes, yes. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Katie. And
you're welcome.
You know, we could only scratch the surface, but even that was very delicious. And thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you for this time together and with the fortunate people that come to your site and to your presence and your good work.
Yes.
Thank you. By the way, how do you react? What happens when you believe the thought that person that she lied to you?
Oh dear, there's somebody has interference there.
How your mind attacks that person.
Not sure
be a depression happens. Experience maybe.
Anyway, we'll have to. Thanks for muting, Samantha. So thank you to all of you for listening. And Katie has left, but you know, I just invite you to really try the work. Do it the way that Katie has described during this conversation, in a very meditative way. And really, what happens is a clear seeing, and that's a much truer place. Belief and the emotions that you're entertaining and that stress you out. So. Thank you for watching, and just to mention that there'll be another live conversation at this Sunday at the same time. So join us then, and until then, or until next time, goodbye. Oh, and if you'd like to support my work, please make a donation on the Living from Love website. Thank you so much, and see you again soon. Bye-bye.